Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me, Anisi Denise, aka Baby Girl Slaughter, back to do another reading over Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids. This book is a great book to add to your collection by Guy Anderson. Shout out to Guy Anderson. He was on a podcast by, I think the gentleman's name is either Richard or Robert. And I can't think of his last name. Of course, they're over in Great Britain. And so, me, what's wrong? What you doing? What you doing, me? Sorry about that. She's over here on the floor looking around and I don't know. She's over here underneath my foot while I'm talking. But they're over in Great Britain and he's been on a couple of different podcasts promoting his book. And I like to say it's just excellent. So when you get a chance, I would definitely highly recommend you guys order this book. I got it on Amazon. Okay. So I either shop through Amazon or either Thrift Books. Those are the place I go to. Those are the two places. So without any further ado, I'm going to get into chapter 15. It's going to be a short read because I'm at lunch. And this is a pretty long chapter, so we're going to have to probably break it up into 2 or 3 parts. So chapter 15 discusses Nikola Tesla. So let me just read it to you. In March 1895, a New York Herald reporter found Nikola Tesla in a cafe, visibly shaken after being accidentally zapped by over 3 million volts of electricity. I am afraid that you wouldn't find me a pleasant companion tonight. The fact is, I was almost killed today, and the spark jumped 3 feet through the air and struck me here on the right shoulder. If my assistant had not turned off the current instantly, it might have been the end of me, he exclaimed. Tesla told the reporter that contact with the electromagnetic charge put him outside his time frame, and he was able to see the immediate, past, present, and future simultaneously. Well, I bet that'd be interesting to see. But unable to act as he was paralyzed with an electrical field. A few days later, Tesla's lab burned down, uninsured and with very little resources. He was, in effect, ruined, temporarily at least. His assistant, by switching off the electrical current, cut off his journey in space-time and also saved his life. Detractors speculate that, like the rays of light from his pigeon eyes, this phenomena was something only Tesla himself would see, while others believe that it was duplicated years later in the Philadelphia experiment with the hideous results. I believe there is a movie that's out that says Philadelphia experiment. I don't know if it's with Tom Hanks or with Denzel Washington. I can't remember. I just know that it's out. And I might just watch that this weekend to kind of get a refresher over it. But I do know that there is a movie that's called The Philadelphia Experiment. It says the Philadelphia Experiment is shrouded in mystery. It is said to have taken place in a naval yard in 1943 when a newly commissioned destroyer named the USS Eldridge was being equipped with several covert devices. One of these is alleged to have been a secret generator that had the capability to make the ship invisible. So a show on Prime, what is it called? Peripheral. Y'all need to check that out too. It came out a couple of years ago, and I think it's a great TV show. It's, I think, 1 season. I might be 2, but it's called Peripheral. Check that out as well. Okay. You put this device over your head and then you're like into this VR mode or VR world. And it's quite fascinating. So just check that out when you guys have time. It's called Peripheral. So then it says, so this device made the ship have the capability of being invisible. Eyewitness reported seeing the ship disappear completely. Several hours later, it reappeared. Crewmen reported cases of nausea and burnt marks following the event. Some went insane. There were also reports of people being embedded within the structure of the ship, several materializing outside when they were originally inside, and some disappearing altogether. So who was Nikola Tesla? Now, the picture on the front of this book, I'm going to state this has been, and it's no hate, no racial slander or anything like that. I'm just going to simply say, when you do your research, you'll see that Tesla was melanated like me. All right. This is not his picture. It's been whitewashed. All right. He was biracial. Let me put it that way. His hair was straighter than mine, but it was curly. All right. So he had a nice texture of hair. I did put up a picture over on Facebook to show you what he looked like. All right. I do have a picture of him in the office. So just so you know. So let's just see what Guy says, because he seems to say that, was he real? Was he really the inventor of these things? So let's just check it out. So it says, who was Nikola Tesla? So it says Tesla was born during a lightning storm in the town of Smaljan, in which is now Croatia, on the 10th of July, 1856. So you know that he was after the fall of Tartary and during the reconstruction of the world, with the fires, with every major city, comets, asteroids hitting, floods, all kinds of craziness going on. So, and they were unaliving millions of autochthonous people worldwide, because we were everywhere. We're not just in quote unquote Africa. We were all throughout this dome. Okay. So, he was born on July 1856. He was the fourth child of Duca Mandy and Moulton Tesla. Halfway through Duca's labor, the midwife proclaimed, this child will be a child of darkness, to which his mother replied, no, he will be a child of light. Only 5 years old, he witnessed his brother fall from a horse and subsequently die as a result of his injuries, which haunted him for the rest of his life. During his childhood, he would see visions with flashes of light, which would often cause confusion, enough for him to sometimes be unable to differentiate between what was real and what was not. These visions enabled Tesla to imagine the most incredible connections in such incredible and specific detail that be never added to actually document them onto paper. He said in the publication, Electrical Experimenter, invariably, my device works as I conceived that it should, and that the experiment comes out exactly as I planned it in the past 20 years. There has not been a single inception. Okay. So he was gifted. Now, I've read in some other pieces of literature that I've read that he was from Venus. I'm just going to tell you, he was outside. He was from one of the planets outside the ice walls, and he was brought here. All right. I've read that. I'm just going to say, I don't know how true that is, but you got to often wonder, he was a very intelligent person, and obviously he was meant to be here. Right. I'm just saying, because he wouldn't have been here if he wouldn't. So it says, he credited his mother for his interest in inventing. Duca actually invented small household appliances as a hobby and had an eidetic memory, which gave her the ability to recall an image from her mind. This gift she clearly passed down to her son, Nikola. His father was a priest and had always wanted him to follow in his footsteps, but Tesla's only interest was in engineering. During his teenage years, Tesla contracted cholera and almost died as a result. His father was so concerned that he promised him that if he could beat the disease and survive, he would give in to his wishes and pay for him to attend engineering school in Austria. Fortunately for us, he made a full recovery and attended the Technical College of Graz, but never finished the course. Whilst his professors were very concerned that his studying from 3 a.m. to 11 p.m. each day would ultimately result in him dying from exhaustion. His failure to complete the course seems to have been caused by his newly acquired fascination, followed by an addiction to gambling. This got to be such an extreme that he chose to distance himself from his family and his friends so that they would never find out. In fact, he wasn't seen for a long time, that his friends presumed that he had died having drowned in a local river. Wow. Didn't know he had a gambling addiction. So then it says, Tesla left Austria and started traveling around Europe, eventually landing a job in Budapest as an electrician within a company that manufactured telephones. During his time in Budapest, he had a vision which would go on to change the course of history. This vision showed Tesla a way in which he could generate electricity using the alternating current, the AC, far outweighing the direct current, which is DC, that Thomas Edison had developed. This will become his greatest invention of them all, and in a bizarre twist of fate, in 1882, Tesla moved to Paris to work for the French division of Thomas Edison's electric company. Initially, he was employed to install internal lighting, but several of his managers thought that he was capable of much more. They started getting Tesla to design and build dynamos and motors, which ultimately enabled him to start traveling throughout Europe again. During his travels, he resolved numerous problems within the other branches, and as a direct result, he was offered a promotion at their headquarters in New York. However, upon his arrival to America, he was penniless, having had his wallet stolen during the voyage. He had admired Edison for many years, and now the feeling was mutual. In fact, Edison said of Tesla, "I have had many hardworking assistants, but you take the cake." Unfortunately, this admiration was not going to last, as Tesla truly believed the AC was the future of generating and supplying electricity. In the end, Edison offered to pay off Tesla $15,000 if he could, $50,000 if he could make the DC operated motors more efficient. Tesla achieved that quite quickly, but Edison refused to pay him. Ain't that some shit? This caused him to resign from the company in 1885 and attempt to go it alone. He managed to find several small investors that were prepared to back him, but ultimately, they only really wanted to sell Tesla's patents and showed little interest in the company. No sooner had the patents been sold, his shares were worthless, and Tesla found himself penniless in New York once more. In fact, things became so dire that he ended up working as a ditch digger, earning $2 a day. In 1887, Tesla finally succeeded in inventing an induction motor that ran on AC and was now the world's most efficient and effective way to convert electricity to a mechanical power. In fact, a modernized version of the very motor is used today in all the Tesla vehicles. I'm going to say this. I know a lot of you probably do own a Tesla. My thing is, if you look at how they acquire the lithium that goes in those batteries, it's not even an energy savings. Like, literally, to me, you're driving something that is costs more than what it's worth. And, for you to have to plug the car up and, rely on electricity in itself. And when we have the technology, we have 0 point energy. Like I told you, in 2012, they actually finally took down all of the receptacles that were on top of the buildings in Turkmenistan, because they were wireless up until 10 years ago, or what is this, 2025? So 13 years ago, they were wireless. So I'm telling you, the reason why they don't reintroduce this technology is because they won't make any money off of it. Right. And we talked about these 13 bloodline families. I gave you the names of them. Right. You can go do your research on them and see how they're connected to all the major corporations, seats of power in government. Also how they are, how they are connected to the banking system. All right. I'm just going to tell you, they've got their hands in everything. They structured this so-called quote unquote paradigm, AKA the Rothschild, the Rothschilds, because they believe that they are the descendants of these demigods or Anunnakis, okay, the custodians. I'm just going to tell you. So, I mean, when you're dealing with those people, you can actually see, if you start researching the families, you'll see what they're tied to as far as the sororities, the fraternities, Freemasonry, all these different secret societies. They're all at the top of them, unseen hand. I'm just going to tell you. So, I find it quite fascinating that, people really have not tried to put the puzzle pieces together and do the research, So for me, it's like, I at first was thinking about buying a Tesla, but at the end, I just started researching about the lithium battery, the contaminating the earth, what it's doing. And it's like, oil is the blood of the earth. I get that. I know that it is. But at the same time, we have the capability to tap into 0 point energy. Will it ever come to play like these UAPs that are reverse engineered from alien tech that was from beyond the ice walls and also from underground, in the underground cities? I'm just going to tell you, I mean, we have so much history here that's been covered up and hasn't been shared. It's quite fascinating, quite remarkable when you think about it. I would never buy a Tesla. I wouldn't, because I know that it's not good for the environment. At the end, if the battery goes out, what are you going to do with the car? It's like a weight. I'm just going to tell you. And if you ever get into an accident and you have to have firemen to come put out the fire, they have to put it out a certain way. You know what I mean? So it's just like, to me, it's more trouble than what it's worth, but that's just my own opinion. All right. So, anyway, so then it says, he was a ditch digger. And then in 1887, Tesla finally succeeded in inventing the induction motor that was ran on AC, which is now the world's most efficient and effective way to convert electricity to mechanical power. In fact, a modernized version of this very motor is used in all the Tesla vehicles today. He took this and now patented invention to the American Institute of Electrical Engineers. And this is where he would meet George Westinghouse. Westinghouse was the founder of the Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company. He purchased the patents and hired Tesla to improve and modify the motor for use in his power system at today's equivalent of $50,000 a month. Okay. The issue with the DC was that unlike AC, it couldn't travel over long distances and was unable to change or charge polarity. This made Edison angry and clearly felt threatened by Tesla, especially with him having the backing of Westinghouse. Edison managed to convince the New York judicial system to use one of the AC motors to power the first electric chair, but rigged it to ensure that the prolonged and agonizing death of the accused. This was to become the start of the war of the currents. So, you had haters back then. I'm telling you, that's why we have all these damn poles strung up everywhere. It's an ugly eyesore. When you're driving down the freeway, you have all these poles. In the cities and the neighborhoods, you have all these damn power lines. We don't need that shit. That's just a way for them to control us, right? We really do need to, band together and demand that they release the 0-point technology. This is why Dr. Stephen Greer talks about what he does. I was listening to an interview he did on Redacted. It was about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, year and a half. And he was talking about how Congress was, testifying in the SCIF and also, testifying openly, or some of the people were coming forward to Congress to divulge, information about the programs and the technologies and the extraterrestrials and aliens, blah, 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 blah. I mean, to me, it's fascinating, but yet and still it's like they have a boot on their neck and they just won't give in. It's going to take all of us to wake up and demand that we have the technology that our ancestors used to utilize, right? Okay. So then it says, this was known as the War of the Currents, right? So he felt threatened by Tesla. And so, however, undefeated by this, at the Chicago World Fair in 1893, Tesla lit up an entire city, and this amazing performance won him the contract to build the world's first hydroelectric dam at Niagara Falls. Now, interesting enough, we know that during or near the Niagara Falls, there was a city there, all right? And we know that there was a pyramid there as well, okay? And we know they flooded that whole entire area, okay? And I actually seen a guy talking about that. I think I reshared it over here on Facebook. I don't think I shared it over on YouTube. But when you start to look at the Niagara Falls and you really look at the history of it and you look at some old pictures, right where the falls is where those damn houses were. And then on the Canadian side, underground, you see the tunnels that were carved out. That's Tartarian. I mean, I'm telling you, they've hidden so much from us. It's amazing. It really is. And it's quite sad that a lot of people don't know this stuff. So it says, Tesla was now seen as a genius, and by some, he was portrayed as a wizard. Tesla had become obsessed with getting rid of the wires needed to transport electricity from one place to another. And in 1891, he introduced the Tesla coil to the world. Using resonance, the coil could amplify low voltages into higher ones. He was reusing the technology that he already discovered from the Tartarians because he was part of the Tartarian empire of resets. His mother was, and his family was. If you look at it and look at the timeline and the dates, he just rediscovered what was already being utilized previously. Okay. So then it says, using resonance, the coil could amplify low voltages into much higher ones. And in fact, it was able to amplify them into enormous voltages. And by emitting very high frequencies, the Tesla coil could actually illuminate a light bulb wirelessly. Yeah. We have the capability to have devices in our homes to where we don't need these. We don't need to depend on these the means that we have now. But again, they can't patent it and they can't make money off of it if it's free. Most of you probably have a hard time believing that we do have not wireless, but 0-point technology. We do. I'm just telling you. This is where I started to feel that Tesla had cracked how the rooftop antennas, resonators, and capacitors of the totalitarian empire functioned. He did, because he got a hold of the tech. He understood it. Tesla wanted to use this technology to transmit electricity wirelessly to every corner of the world. To do this, he decided that lightning would be the best method of harnessing energy. So in 1899, he left New York and relocated his laboratory to Colorado Springs, enabling him to work in secret away from the prying eyes of Thomas Edison, who's a damn hater. He then set to work in the building, or in my opinion, recreating the antennas we had seen on photographs of the old world Tartarian buildings. He was now using energy gathered from the ether. Okay. And then you got hating ass people that didn't like his work and felt threatened by him. Chief Red Wolf, if you see this video, I know you said you worked at the Thomas Edison building, and was he not melanated? That was my understanding. I'm just going to say, we got a bunch of hating ass Negroes. We got a bunch of hating ass people, period. It's not even about the color of your skin. It's either in you or it's not. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, how can people not see this shit? If you really take the time to go do your research, you'll see it. You'll see a lot of shit that that they didn't teach you in school. Like, I have a book in there of inventions. I might just come on here one day and just read off patents and inventions, because I find it fascinating that we were made to be these lowly people they brought over on slave ships, when actually history was told to us in reverse. We didn't come over on slave ships. They actually came over on ships. And, they came through the port of Angel Island, which is off of Costa Cali, Ellis Island, New York, and then they used Galveston, and then they did Miami, the port down there. I mean, they were coming in on all spans. They were coming in everywhere. But, you look at the ancient maps, you'll see that this land said Negro land on it. I mean, it did. I mean, it really did. And then, you've got pictures that show you, okay, there's a map. I posted a video. There's a map that was like worth $950,000 for this 4-part map, this huge map that shows you all of the continents around the world and the people that lived on the continents. I'm just going to tell you, it's fascinating. And the truth's coming out. People can't hide from it. That's pseudoscience. Well, I mean, if that's what you feel and you believe in the educational system of lies, then go right ahead. I'm not for you. Only a certain select few people are going to understand this stuff. I find it amazing and I find it fascinating because the history is just all lies. It's a bunch of bullshit. And when you start to see it and you read and you research the stuff, it comes to you, So, what are we really dealing with here? Some say a prison planet, some say education, some say a lower vibrational area, an experiment. I'm trying to tell you, some people find it a game and some of it's not. This is your soul. This is your life. But until you start to wake up and see it for what it really is, you're going to continue in the mundane existence of your life. And you're not really even living until you let go of the shit. I'm just going to tell you. So let's finish this last part because my time is drawing close. So then he says, so he moved to Colorado Springs away from the prying eyes of Edison, right? So then he says, Tesla also worked on radio controlled boats, weapons, and even robots, which were originally called automations and could be used as soldiers. Decades later, this technology would become today's drones. His aim wasn't to win a war or even to encourage it. He actually wanted to make technology so advanced that war becomes pointless. At the same time, he was spending the majority of his efforts trying to find a way to use Earth itself to transmit energy using its crust as a giant condenser. The Earth contains a large amount of energy, which is carried along ley lines. And it is during this research that he discovered a radio signal was being emitted, not from the Earth, but actually from one of the moons of Mars. All right. And we know, because based on my reading, we know the sky is a projection. It's a holographic reality. We're living in the light matrix. And when you look up at the sky, you're not seeing the true upper waters, right? You're seeing a projection. Okay. So I'm just going to say, as above, so below. So what you're looking up in the sky, it's actually a part of this great dome, and it's beyond the ice walls. Whether you know it or not, whether you accept it or not my problem. I'm just going to tell you. So it says, first proposed by amateur English archaeologist Alfred Watkins during the 1920s, ley lines are theoretical energy lines which connected key landmarks across the globe, joining sacred sites from Stonehenge to the Egyptian pyramids. I did a short video over ley lines, and I talked about the 12 different vectors. And I also talked about a little bit of the portals. We know that the earth is considered to be a female. It's considered to be Mother Earth or Gaia, and it is a living, breathing organism. And on the earth, you have a lot of dead, decaying organisms, like the giant trees that they cut down that they showed you in Avatar, right? The world tree that's in the center of the dome. You have a hollow earth with civilizations within the earth. This world is not what you think it is, and it's much larger, much bigger than what people actually believe, okay? I'm just going to tell you, they've changed the maps and they've hidden a lot of things from us. But the ley lines are energy grids, and we know this based on where the ancients built pyramids all over these. Our ancient ancestors, the advanced civilizations before us, during the many resets that we had, right? So then it says, according to Watkins, who his work focused predominantly on the English landscape, ley lines were interconnected with very certain terminal points, such as churches, beacons, mounds, and holy wells. Over the following decades, the concept of ley lines gathered pace with a core group of enthusiasts arguing that the lines were interconnected around the entire world, and they are. Some believe these lines were joined with the rhythms and patterns of nature, organized in alignment with the sun and the stars, and even carried energy and psychic power. Even today, a small number of enthusiasts still believe in the interconnected nature of civilization and the earth, with a handful connecting ley lines to supernatural extraterrestrial forces. Okay, once again, Tesla now needed investment and took his research to none other than the New York banker J.P. Morgan. Morgan took a very little convincing, and this enabled Tesla to build a research facility in Long Island in September 1901. Its name was the Wardenclyffe and was set to be the world's first international radio broadcasting system. Morgan realized that it is an opportunity to control all information transmitted across the planet. However, Guglielmo Marconi beat him to it. Okay. Behind the scenes, Tesla had been secretly working on transmitting electricity wirelessly. But when Marconi successfully sent the first radio transmission across the Atlantic in December of the same year, Tesla felt defeated. And in fact, he never recovered from this. See, I told you a lot of haters. Now Marconi would join Edison on Tesla's list of enemies, and rightly so. As in the fairness of Tesla, Marconi was partially taking the credit for the 17 patents he had invented during his research on the wireless transmissions. Along with this blow came another even bigger sucker punch when Morgan heard the news of Marconi's success. He decided to cease funding. Tesla now focused on all his efforts on the death ray, with literally devastating consequences. In 1908, an enormous explosion occurred in the Tunguska, Russia. It was so powerful it ripped trees from the roots across an area of 770 square miles. At first, eyewitnesses believed that this was a result of another comet. However, no craters were found, and some people had started to think that Tesla was behind it. Many believing it was both of energy that he had transmitted wirelessly from a research center at the Wardenclyffe, intended for the North Pole, but accidentally hit Siberia. However, many scientists today do not believe this theory, as they don't think it's possible that Tesla's tower could produce that amount of power. That's bull crap, it did. But back in 1908, most scientists did believe it was possible, along with many of the people that had researched this work of this great man, himself included. So With him now considered by many to be irresponsible and with the financial backing of Morgan gone, Tesla's vision of transmitting wireless energy lay in tatters. Added to this, 1917, further rumors started to spread about Warcliffe being used by German spies, resulting in the tower being demolished. Telling you, they had it in for this man because they didn't want him to release this information. Those people that were in control, the elites, had this set up and had this locked down from the very beginning. Tesla didn't even have a chance. I'm just going to tell you. So it says all of this had a very significant impact on both his mental and physical health. I bet it did. Now almost bankrupt, he became a recluse and spent almost entire time hidden away in room 3327 and 3328 on the 33rd floor of the New Yorker Hotel, where he started breeding pigeons. In fact, he stayed in these rooms for the next 30 years. Then, as World War II reared its ugly head, Tesla announced his creation of the death ray. The death ray, which today could be compared to the directed energy weapons, the DEWs, okay, which we saw hit Hawaii. I don't care what you say, but it did. And it's been tested over here in the United States, and it's in the Antarctica. I mean, it's been proven. And did I not show y'all a patent of that? I'm trying to think, did I actually pull up a patent and read that to you? If not, I need to. I'm going to put my little flag right here so I know to do that. Because there's a patent out there for it. So anyway, it says, he made headline news across America, and once again, a defeated Tesla was thrown back into the spotlight. He claimed that the beam from his particular particle generator could not only take out a fighter plane, but also an army of up to 1 million soldiers. In light of what happened to his previous patents, he chose to be very secretive with the precise function and workings of the device and refused to go into much detail. And who could blame him? In fact, only one very basic drawing was ever shown. And it's because Trump's uncle came in and took that shit out of there. And so, that went underground to, the black ops and the special operator and the corporations, the black budget corporations that developed this advanced technology, thanks to Tesla's patents. I'm just going to tell you, this weapon could send a beam of energy at a speed of 36,000 miles per minute, from 36,000 miles per hour. Sorry. The beam could also be configured to generate a defensive shield around an entire country or continent. See, y'all think Star Wars is real. I mean, I think it's sci-fi, but I'm telling you, it's real. It actually has really transpired right in front of our faces. They're telling us the history. So, it says, similar to what we have seen in sci-fi movies, usually referred to as the force field. Ultimately, the more towers you had, the bigger the area you could protect. So all he needed now was a new financial backer. Okay. Tesla's sale of the technology in 1935 raised $25,000 and is well documented. However, most believe that the design he sold the Russians was quite basic and might not have even had a good enough to actually make a working model. At the same time, Tesla's thought to have also been having a secret communications with German spy George Florek, who was convicted of being a high-ranking Nazi officer after the end of the war. So the high-ranking Nazi officers they put on trial, I'm telling you, it's just so convoluted. The history that we've been taught is not the truth, and you've really got to look the stuff up. Has anybody even listened to Hitler's speech, Mein Kampf? Have you read the book? I have the book in there. I'm just going to tell you, I'm not even going to get off subject. I'm just going to say this. The Nazi scientists were brought back here thanks to the U.S. government, and they formed NASA. NASA, which means in Hebrew to deceive. So when you talk about the Nazis, you're actually talking about a part of our government. I'm just going to tell you. I tell you, when you start reading and you start learning stuff, you're like, holy shit. I was not told in the school. I wasn't taught this shit in school. But I'm just telling you. So the naysayers are going to say he was dealing with the Nazis, right? And they're going to say that he was sold the technology, which it is documented, right? But what they don't tell you is that the U.S. government has Nazis that are employed them. They have Zionists. We're infiltrated by the Mossad. I'm just going to tell you. So it says Tesla then offered the very same information to the U.S. military, but 3 days later, on the 7th of January, 1943, was found dead in his hotel room. He never made the meeting. Now, do you think he was murdered? Was it natural causes? I'm just going to tell you. Upon his death, Tesla's room was almost immediately accessed by several key figures, including a renowned lockpicker and safecracker, John G. Trump, Donald Trump's uncle, and an employee of the Hotel New Yorker, as well as an associate of Tesla's called Bliss Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald was a scientist and private in the U.S. Army who, oddly enough, went on to research the very same technology for the military, along with several other inventions Tesla had been working on. It appears that Trump and Fitzgerald may well have got to the information and cherry-picked from it before it was handed over to J. Edgar Hoover, the administrator who served as the final director of the Bureau of Investigation and the first director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. President Calvin Coolidge first appointed Hoover as director of the BOI, the predecessor to the FBI in 1924, and the FBI. It is estimated that within Tesla's safe was over 200,000 documents. John G. Trump was a physicist at MIT, and with him was a team from the U.S. Naval Intelligence. Trump also spent the next 48 hours combing through 80 boxes of these documents, specifically looking for anything about the death ray, but found nothing. Either they were never actually there or someone else now had them. All of Tesla's work, or at least the work they had retrieved, was now put into microfilm, but mysteriously went missing. The series of events were actually made public in 1980s under the Freedom of Information Act. In 1945, the missing documents apparently appeared in Germany when it was leaked that the Nazi scientists had been secretly working on what they referred to as the Synagoge, which translate roughly to the sun gun. This operated like a giant magnifying glass, directing a hugely magnified beam of sunlight onto a given target. Was this the death ray that Tesla had been working on? The Synagoge consisted of a concave mirror that was staggering 1 mile wide, mounted in space. It could be operated remotely to destroy entire cities in almost identical way the Death Star from Star Wars movies. In many ways, it powered and intent reminds me of what happened to Dresden when temperatures reached 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, I'm just going to tell you that we've got factions underground that have advanced technology, and now we have crazy ass psychopaths on the surface who are actually got their hands on they actually have their hands on advanced technology. Well, be it Tartarian, or well, be it from those who come from behind ice walls and those who live underground who escaped the craziness up above on the surface. I'm telling you, there are so many different little factions on this planet, if you want to call a planet. Planet means planes of existence. That's what that means. Planet does. So when you're looking at this dome world for what it is, you got to understand we're dealing with a lot of different crazy ass people, a lot of different crazy individuals. I'm just going to tell you. So, and I would state that, yeah, we do have this technology because, you know me, I can pull my laptop up and I can go show you some patents on some shit. Y'all really want to see it. If y'all really get bored and you want to stay up half the night and you can't sleep, just put on one of my videos. I'll entertain you. I'm just telling you. This is my last part, and I'm going to jump off here because my time is up. However, in reality, the Synagoge was too different in Tesla's death ray to be realistically considered to have derived from it. So America then turned its suspicions back to Russia and decided that they stole the documents to prevent America from creating the death ray first. That's bullshit. They got it. They got to it. I'm just going to tell you. Those who are in control got to that information and they suppressed it. Okay? They're using it for their advantage now. This became the basis of the entire Cold War. In fact, America actually came to have found a strange configuration of very specific Tesla-like equipment in Kazakhstan in 1978 using overhead satellites. This was backed up by a report of photographs from the British Flight 831 when it flew over Russia and witnessed a huge beam of light followed by a second similar beam. An identical event was seen 2 years later in Bell Island, Newfoundland, and was over 100 times more powerful than a bolt of lightning. Russia refused to comment, and in the end, Kazakhstan turned out to be a test site for a nuclear-powered thermal spacecraft. Known as the Semiplunkist test site, or I can't say, I don't speak Russian. Semiplunkist 21, also known as the Polygon. My theory is that the American government not only had the documents all along, but attempted to crudely blame Germany, followed by Russia, to justify their role in both World War II and the Cold War. Of course, they needed to have more money. Those who love us so much will, the suits will have these disagreements, and they're all in the boys club, and we're not invited, right? They'll have these disagreements, and then they'll come on TV and they'll say a bunch of shit. And then they'll send a bunch of us to war, our troops and our beloved brothers and sisters and men and women to war, when we should send their asses to war. We shouldn't be the brunt of their existence. We shouldn't bear the hardship of what these idiots do and making these laws up and these quote unquote policies. They're just filling their pockets with money, you guys. And if you can't see that, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, literally. So it says, therefore, trying to convince the world that they are the peacekeepers, when in actual fact, along with Britain, they have done more harm than good and started more wars between them than any other countries on the face of the earth, the United States and the Great Britain. Let me put it that way, United Kingdom. Because I ain't shit united about neither one of them. They're all only out for themselves. I'm telling you. It's the eagle or the serpent. It goes back to these so-called non-human entities and their families. That's what it alludes to. I'm just going to tell you. So it says, who actually killed Tesla remains a mystery, but my finger points firmly at the parasites, those who love us so much that he talks about. 13 bloodline families, the cahoots, the Council of 300, the Vatican, all the above. Tesla had always known the power of ancient numerology, and specifically, all right, that's my time. It's up. Let me finish this paragraph. Tesla had always known the power of ancient numerology, specifically the numbers 369. This knowledge was also fully understood by Pythagoras, Aristotle, Plato, and Vitruvius. It is said, in fact, that we are indeed a living manifestation of the divine mathematically matrix. Try to think about the Keanu Reeves, but rather a rectangle of numbers, symbols of mathematical equations. The word matrix appears 5 times in King James Bible, always in the phrase, all that openeth the matrix. During his life, Tesla successfully patented almost 300 inventions in 26 different countries. The first was the U.S. patent number 334823. Go look it up. 334823. A lot of numbers. Just tell you. If you believe in that type of thing. Which was a communicator, a rotary electric switch in certain types of electrical motors and electrical generators that periodically reverses the current direction between the rotor and the external circuit for the dynamo electric machines. And the last was the U.S. patent 1655114, an apparatus for aerial transport. Here are perhaps his most famous inventions. And I'm going to leave it right there. So I'm going to bookmark that in the purple flag. When I come back, we're going to read over his inventions, okay? We're going to finish up that chapter, and then we're going to finish up the last chapter of the book, which would come into chapter 16, which is a reset. So like I said, I had to break the chapter over Tesla up into 2 parts because it is a long chapter. I appreciate you guys joining me for today. Just short reading. I will be back over the weekend sometime to finish up part 2 of chapter 15. And then we're going to get into chapter 16. And then we're done with the book. We'll do kind of like a refresher or summary. And then we're going to get started on the lost teachings of Atlantis. And we're going to look at certain religious texts all around the world. And we're going to deep dive into the science of sacred secretion, or how you can become enlightened and reach nirvana and reach that inner peace, because that's where I want to primarily focus on that. And then, of course, we're going to still deep dive into the damn reptilians and the cryptids. Those people don't scare me. I'm just going to tell you, they're there, they exist. And, some say that the higher echelons, they're interdimensional, and they are not. They don't possess a body. I just want to tell you this. There are a bunch of disembodied souls walking around here, and there are things that do go bump in the night, but be that as may, that is not my concern. My concern is to reconnect with the creator of all and get the hell out of this dome for what it is. I see it for what it is. And, while I'm here, I'll share some interesting information. It's up to you guys to go check it out and come up with your own understanding and use your own discernment. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me, and I hope you have an amazing day. And remember what I always say, be the change you want to see all around this earth dome, because it's up to you and I to make a positive change. I will talk to you all soon. I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.